Today, we learn about the formidable Swedish-made fighter jet nicknamed the Sukhoi Killer for its potential to counter the Russian aircraft and its possible deployment to Ukraine. First, a little background. Moscow's aggression against Kyiv served as a catalyst for Sweden to change its centuries-old stance of military non-alignment. The country recently became the 32nd member nation of the NATO alliance. Now, NATO is expected to play a pivotal role in providing support to Ukraine through Sweden with its high-level military weapons. The most promising of those is the Sukhoi Killer. Named the Gripen, it's Sweden's flagship fighter jet. Experts say if this aircraft is provided to Ukraine, it could have a significant effect on the conflict. So, let's go to Sweden to see what the Gripen can do.
This is an airbase in northern Sweden. Sweden's military conducts daily training sessions using the Gripen. On this day, 6 of the jets were conducting drills for a defensive battle. The number of such exercises has increased dramatically since the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sweden maintained its non-aligned status for over 200 years, since the end of the Napoleonic Wars in the 19th century. It also remained neutral during the Cold War, but as a democracy, it was always under the threat of Soviet invasion. To be able to defend itself, the country has developed a strong military industry that exports submarines and tanks. Sweden's defense minister says it is preparing for possible Russian aggression by developing its own cutting-edge military technology.
No other country of 10 million who can produce fighter aircrafts and submarines. We have a strong intelligence community, especially focusing on Russia.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has high hopes for Swedish support to his country.
Літаки Gripen – це гордість Швеції, і я впевнений, що Gripen можуть зробити нашу свободу значно більш захищеною.
Zelensky said Ukraine is holding talks with Sweden about adding the jets to the country's provision of weapons for the war effort. In February, Ukrainian fighters were forced to withdraw from Avdiivka, which had been a stronghold in the country's east. One reason for the withdrawal was that Russia had gained air superiority.
It's never been in the history of humankind when a war is done without air superiority.
Provision of the Gripen to Ukraine is believed to be increasingly likely now that Sweden has joined NATO. What can the Gripen do that makes it so desirable to Ukraine? NHK became the first TV broadcaster ever to enter and film at this Saab facility that develops and manufactures parts of the jet. The company used to make cars, but is now dedicated to producing military equipment. Security was tightened from here, so we had to leave all our electronic devices. First, we saw the process of making electronic components for the Gripen. We are not allowed to disclose the location of the facility due to security concerns. Russian fighter jets are designed for so-called electronic warfare using high-performance radar. In response, the Gripen has been equipped with a device that emits electromagnetic waves. Such waves can obstruct enemy radar, making the plane undetectable. The Gripen can also create phantom aircraft to appear as though it is flying with other fighter jets. The components filled with high-level military technology are made by machine. Workers then use microscopes to check for defects. In this room, they check the functions that makes the Gripen undetectable. The company says the process takes up to 20 hours. This device is the core of the Gripen's electronic warfare capability.
This is an electronic attack jammer pod. Its purpose is to suppress radar systems from a long range.
The device effectively nullifies enemy radar. The Gripen has another major advantage. It can take off and land on a runway only about 500 meters long. That's shorter than the length needed by F-16 fighter jets, which are to be provided to Ukraine. The Gripen's landing and takeoff capability means it can keep fighting, even if Russia destroys Ukraine's airports and air force bases. The manufacturer has high expectations for the jet's performance.
All these things, in terms of how capable the aircraft is and how easy it is to maintain and the high availability and the dispersed airbase concept that we have, makes it really suitable and attractive to Ukraine. We haven't seen sort of the final decision, but Saab, of course, as a company, is 100% prepared to support if Swedish politicians take the decision to support Ukraine with the fighter aircraft.
We're also working in cooperation with other countries, also for providing the Ukrainians with newly produced defense equipment. It's really vital due to Russia's aggressive behavior and its propensity to take big political and military risks. And it will also bring stability to the whole northern flank of NATO, and it will enhance NATO's ability to deter and defend the whole alliance.
NHK World's senior political commentator Masuda Tsuyoshi is here with more analysis. So Tsuyoshi, with Sweden joining NATO, it seems more likely that the country will provide the Gripen to Ukraine. Can the fighter become a game changer in the war between Moscow and Kyiv?
I think it could. The Gripen is a unique fighter jet dedicated to defeating those of Russia and becoming a nightmare for the country. The Gripen does not have advanced stealth capabilities like the US F-22 and F-35. It's also not the fastest, doesn't have the longest flight range, and cannot carry many weapons. But the plane has advanced electronic warfare capabilities. According to an expert, Russia has also been focusing on such features, but the Gripens are superior, even among the best in the world. This means that while the jet does not have what are called stealth capabilities, its radar jamming allows it to avoid detection, even if it's right next to a Russian fighter.
And what does the Ukrainian government expect from the Gripen?
It's very much focused on the jet's ability to take off and land in short distances and on expressways, and not just airport runways. Behind those capabilities is the fact that the Gripen was developed in Sweden, which has many mountainous areas. The planes have been deployed in places built by hollowing out mountains, where they have to take off and land in short distances, sometimes on snow-covered roads. This feature would be of great use in the Ukraine war. Even if the Russian military targets a Ukrainian airbase in a missile attack, the Gripen would be able to continue fighting by using roads and other surfaces. That would make it a troublesome enemy for Russia.
Hearing about all of the Gripen's capabilities, it appears to have been developed with Russia in mind. Can you tell us about Sweden's motives, as well as why it's so supportive of Ukraine?
It wants to protect itself from Russia. Sweden, which is close to the Russian border, has a deep mistrust of the country due to their historical background and geopolitical factors. The two countries were adversaries in the Great Northern War of the 1700s. So Sweden wants Ukraine to win by all means. And fighting against Russia would be the first combat experience for the Gripen.
Now let's move on to another combat aircraft that recently made headlines. The fighter jet Japan is jointly developing with Britain and Italy. Japan's government has decided to ease its strict export rules on defense-related equipment to allow this aircraft to be sold overseas under certain conditions. Cabinet ministers made the decision at a meeting last week. The aircraft can only be transferred to countries that have signed defense deals with Japan and are not involved in active conflicts. The move comes after the government said Britain and Italy asked Japan to allow the jet to be exported to help lower the cost of procurement. So, Tsuyoshi, why are countries around the world, including Japan and Sweden, putting so much effort into developing high-performance fighter jets?
Because securing air supremacy is a precondition for all ground, sea, and air operations in modern wars. The success rate of military operation without air supremacy is extremely low and often accompanied by massive human casualties. And fighter jets play the biggest role in securing air superiority. In other words, the performance of fighter jets determines the outcome of the war. Unfortunately, the growing focus on developing fighter jets reflects the current severe situation of wars taking place around the world.
Thank you for your insights, Tsuyoshi.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching Newsline in Depth.